I mean, Taiwan, of course, it's a unique place because its culture has many different kind of elements. Confucius says, 和而不同. We can get along peacefully. We can get along harmoniously, but we don't have to be the same. I am Josephine Chiu-Duke, a professor at Asian Study Department of University of British Columbia. I'm responsible for teaching political Chinese political thought and Chinese political institutions, as well as a course on history and the culture of Taiwan. Confucius and his teaching have influenced not just Chinese culture or Chinese society, but also influenced in many societies in East Asia. The person whose name is Confucius, and later he acquired this respectful salutation as Confucius. And we should know that Confucius is really the Latinization of the Chinese term Confuzi. So Fuzi means master, and Kong is his last name. So Confucius really means a master Kong. And we all know Confucius was active in the 5th and 6th century BCE. And he's from today's Shandong province in the northeast China, the land that we call China today. After all, because of the thought and the teaching of this person, that he really set up, or I should say, his teaching and his thought actually set up a new direction, or you may say redirected the road or the path that Chinese culture would go back in the 6th century or 5th century BCE. And the most important ideas first is the ren, and usually it's translated as benevolence or humanity or humaneness or the good with the capital G. Like the Greek used the good. And in my view, we should really just say Ren represent the embodiment of the all good, beautiful moral virtues in Confucius' thought. At least that's what he was trying to instill or spread to his followers. And the second most important idea, obviously, is li, and usually translated as rights, R-I-T-Es, not human rights, or ritual. So these are the two most important ideas spread by Confucius during his time. We see he talks about you should have compassion for others. And when you make yourself good, country boy make good, you should also try to think about how you can help others, right? So he talks about 己利利人, 己达达人. When you stand up, try to help others to stand up. When you become prosperous, try to help others to become prosperous. When Confucius said, heaven granted me, gives me the, then he obviously think he is just as good as the founding father of the Western Zhou. They are equals, or they were equal if we use historical past tense, right? So what does that mean? It means Confucius from very early on already had this idea that all men are born equal. If you want to search, and if you want to trace that origin, and if you want to just follow that logic, you can even say, from the very beginning, Confucius already has this idea as what Christians have in the Western tradition, that all men are born equal, right? At least before the Christian God. And Confucius has this idea. Heaven gave me, or heaven endowed me with this de. And heaven, obviously, if heaven endowed this de to him, he believes heaven endowed this de to other people. So everybody is equal. And from this, you can see why Confucius later, in the Analects we will read that he will talk about, I will give instruction to anyone without considering their status or background, right? So 有教无类. So 有教无类, or giving instruction without considering people's background or status, is again the extension of that 天生得与予, because everybody is equal, and I can help others because we are equal. But I'm just a little bit more fortunate. So I want to help them to learn, to stand up by themselves, right? This is a culture which put everyone on the equal footing. This is the culture that give everybody a same kind of dignity, at least from what we've read from the Analects. But when you have a liberal democracy, particularly the liberal democratic institutional setup, you can rely on a peaceful means to have a power transference, right? And that is the beauty of liberal democracy. And without that, when political power transfers from one hand to another hand, you always have to go through violence. And in the end, who suffer most? Ordinary people, right? I mean, so this is important, because this kind of a democratic institutions is set up not just protect individuals. It also protects the society itself. It also protects those political figures, political leaders. When they step down, they will not meet with a violent death or with a tragic ending, as we've seen again and again throughout history, not just Chinese history, in Western history as well. To spread the message to the younger generation, help them understand the importance of this liberal democracy. And you have to defend, you have to take a stand. Otherwise, this system will also be eroded or be encroached upon. And we don't want to see that, right? We want to have freedom and we want to have happiness. So what will we do? We defend our system, because this is the only system that we know of in the world or on earth ever since the beginning of civilization that can truly protect our basic rights. As I mentioned a while ago, throughout Chinese history, there have always been courageous individuals, scholar officials, protest against the abused power. And they paid price. They've always paid price. There are many cases of that. And that is why scholars said there is this liberal tradition in Chinese society, in Chinese history. And don't forget, Liu Xiaobo. We all know who Liu Xiaobo is, right? And he is a Chinese. He used to be very anti-Confucius teaching. But then as he matured, then he realized that there are some valuable lesson that one can absorb from Confucius' teaching. This idea of protest is very strong. I mean, Taiwan, of course, it's a unique place because its culture has many different kind of elements, but the main elements is still the Chinese culture because of the written text and because of the reading text. Once you have written text and people read, right? And you have that kind of a textual resources which have served as the main sort of a foundational value building in Taiwan. I have to make one thing very clear. That is, throughout Chinese history, all the forces in society, when I say all the forces, I mean business forces or commercial forces, I mean religious forces, I mean social forces in terms of clan in Chinese is 宗族. They have always been controlled by political force. In other words, no political force would allow any forces outside of its power to become stronger than it itself. All right? In the West, it was like that, but there was a big difference. In the West, because of the Christian tradition, first occurred in Roman time, right? And then gradually attracted so many followers. And then you start to have this organizational power. You have the Pope and you have the church. And the Pope and the church, they had the power to sort of crown princes. And those princes, no matter how they claim that they enjoyed the divine right, and yet they could not crown themselves. They would have to rely on religious forces to crown them. Confucius says, 和而不同. We can get along peacefully. We can get along harmoniously, but we don't have to be the same. Diversity is the beauty under this kind of a system. You can argue with me. My students always argue with me, right? And so Confucius teaching, that is why I always told my students, there are certain set of values from Confucius and Mencius that even today are still important because there are no conflict whatsoever between those values and the liberal values advocated in this system. And they are actually could combine and work together and preserve the tradition, the beauty or the good side of the tradition, and also enjoy freedom in this system. Look at Taiwan. Taiwan is an example. I mean, as I grow older, let's say older, I can say without any hypocrisy, without any insincerity, that Taiwan is one of the best places where people can enjoy their freedom as well as happiness in the world.